Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw. I'm here with Julia Simpson, who's President and CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council. Now, just about a month ago, a little more than a month ago, we were in Saudi Arabia for the WTTC Global Summit. So it's been about a month, and so we thought we'd come and meet with Julia in her home. We're here in London at the headquarters of WTTC to try to get a reassessment of what happened with that global summit, what WTTC is up to now, and what's to come, because I know they got one coming up in Rwanda later this year. And you're going to find out all about that and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, Julia, great to see you. We had a wonderful time in Saudi, which was really groundbreaking. It was the largest meeting ever, I think, of WTTC, right?
It absolutely was, James, and it was great that you could be there with us. You were one of actually 350 international media, but we had 85 countries represented there. We had about 60 ministers and overall, 2,500 delegates. It was really impressive.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of WTTCs over the past, and not everyone, but this was definitely one of the biggest that I've been to and one of the more impressive. And it was also more impressive because we were at a destination that only recently reopened, and it was an example of what travel and tourism can do, right?
Exactly, and that's what we're here to do at the World Travel and Tourism Council. You know, we're representing 200 of the top CEOs in every aspect that you can think of in travel and tourism, from hotels to airlines to airports, tour operators, cruise lines, and we gather together once a year. And it's important that where we go, we're helping develop travel and tourism in that area. And you're right, I mean, Saudi Arabia is a very new country in terms of opening up. It's got incredible ambitions. It's spending $800 billion.
Only 800 billion.
Only 800 billion, you know. I think we were with President Macron earlier that year, and he was saying how he's putting 60 million euros, and that's great. And of course, he's already a very mature tourism market, but it puts it in context, you know. They're rewilding parts of Saudi Arabia that are the size of Belgium, with 1 billion trees. They're reintroducing species like the Arabian leopard. They're opening up the Red Sea. It's going to be really
sort of like Moses, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really an incredible. I mean, you have to take your hat off to them for their ambition and you know, the great thing about travel and tourism, I always believe it's about bringing people together, right, getting to know different cultures. It brings peace, you know, and it brings happiness. So, and apart from that, it also brings a lot of jobs and a lot of contribution to countries' economies.
Well, and whenever I go to a WTTC, especially like this one, I walk away saying, if only the travel and tourism people were in control, we wouldn't have wars. We would just develop tourism and get people together. But let's talk overall about that whole global summit. What do you think were the major accomplishments for WTTC from that summit, and also for Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, well, first of all is to show a spotlight on Saudi Arabia. Some people have very strong preconceptions about what is the largest, most powerful country in the Middle East. And actually, we wanted to try and really showcase it and show that it has, you know, mountains, and they've just won the Winter Olympics, and that they've got this great, you know, beautiful coral that they're protecting. I mean, the science that they're putting into this. So their coral reefs, for example, they have scientists there with equipment that is measuring real time and reporting real time the health of their coral reefs, and they're giving that scientific information to the world, to other parts of the world where coral reefs have been dying off. So it's very advanced looking, and it's actually not just about competing with countries around the world, but actually sharing a lot of their expertise as well. The other thing is we had all our top members there, from Hilton to Intercontinental.
Yeah, well, everybody showed up.
Everyone was there. Marriott, Hyatt, everybody was there. But they announced $10.5 billion worth of investment while we were there.
Well, not surprising. Everybody wants to get in there now for all the various projects they're doing, and we saw a lot of the development. In fact, we had a huge party at Diriyah Gate, which was amazing to see what they've accomplished there, and they got a lot more on hand, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Inzarello, who's running Diriyah Gate, is just human. He's beyond human. He's incredible what he does. And Diriyah Gate, it's got universities, it's got schools, it's a whole city, and it's also being beautifully rewilded as well. It's a really beautiful place to go and see. I think people will be really, really surprised. And also the leadership, I think that we call him MBS, the Crown Prince. He's doing a great job in opening the country and ensuring that women have access to education. If you get your equivalent of high school in Saudi Arabia, whether you're a boy or a girl, you can go to any university in the world fully paid for. So he's really, really putting his money, where his mouth is. And then under the leadership of Al-Khatib, the Minister Al-Khatib, full of energy, making great relationships. So it's in very, very good hands.
Well, indeed, I believe the number 2 in Saudi tourism is a woman, and she was very impressive that I saw her on the panels. That was I can't remember her name.
Yes.
Her name, but
yes, absolutely. So you have Princess Haifa.
Right.
I mean, Princess Haifa is amazing, and she has already led a lot of big projects. And also my predecessor from WTTC, Gloria Guevara. So they've
who is working for them now?
But so they've got some real talent there.
Yeah. No, it was interesting, and I did talk to Gloria about that while we were there, because they're going around the world getting the top talent in travel and tourism to help them. Now, do you think this really helps you showcase what travel and tourism can do? We were talking about for other countries, because obviously, this is such a major effort. I don't know if anybody can put the kind of money in that Saudi does, but it does show what you can do when you focus your efforts on travel and tourism, right?
It certainly does. We publish a lot of economic research here at the World Travel and Tourism Council, and we're showing that over the next 10 years to 2032, travel and tourism is going to grow at 5.8% per year, whereas global GDP is estimated to grow at 2.7%. So I've just come back from FITUR, which is Madrid. It's a great big trade fair, and I was speaking to all the big owners there, and they've all been doing really, really well. And I also bumped into a lot of investors and a lot of private equity, and I said to them, why are you here? And they said to me, because it's a big growth sector at the moment. This is where we want to put our money. So when you ask me what can Saudi people learn from Saudi Arabia, travel and tourism is growing, and it's a big opportunity for countries and their politicians to be able to get a lot out of their investment, and for investors. So it's a very interesting time to be in our sector. And of course now China's reopened.
That's true. We were lucky. It's still everybody wants to go back to China. I was just with a friend who has a Chinese tour operator. He's getting very happy, ready to get back in. The Chinese themselves, a huge tourism market that really is getting back on the road, and this is good for everyone, right?
It's great. I mean, the Chinese represent 15% of all expend when it comes to travel and tourism, and that market has been closed to us. So as you say, initially what you'll see is friends and family travelling, reuniting, because they've been basically closed for 3 years, and then you will see the leisure market, and then you will see the business market. But I think it's going to happen really fast.
Well, I think it has happened a lot faster than people think. I think 2022 was a pretty good year, and 2023, this year, is supposed to be amazing. Now let's talk a little bit about, now that the Global Summit is over, what will WTTC focus on in 2023? What are your priorities?
Well, our priorities, first of all, is to help WTTC and our members grow, and grow sustainably. That's really the buzzword at the moment. We just did a big piece of research, a global piece of research, about what do consumers really care about in travel and tourism. And the number one item was to travel more responsibly, to be more sustainable in travel choices. And clearly, we all have our role to play in that. The private sector, we have our role to play. Governments have their role to play. So one of our big focuses will be helping our businesses grow, welcoming Chinese tourism back, which is really, really important. I think for me, this year, 2023, really signals a year of stability and growth, and we haven't had that now for 3 years.
Not at all.
That's great. But actually, WTTC is really occupying a kind of leadership position on sustainability. So sustainability is one of our main focuses.
No, and it has been. I know, but of course it got eclipsed by COVID there for a while. And indeed, COVID remains pandemic-related issues. You're still speaking up about that. I know there was a release you came out with when it was apparent that some countries were either restricting Chinese travelers or a couple of them barring them completely, and WTTC came out and said, no, this is not the way to go, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely not the way to go, because we follow the World Health Organization advice, and oddly enough, a little thing like a virus doesn't present its passport at the borders. This illness, like flu, is a global illness. It is now endemic, and there's no point putting artificial frontiers, because it won't prevent the spread of, and it's been changing like all illnesses do. And I think we now just need to learn how to live with it and move on. So when I saw that China had made this incredible announcement, it's opening up to the world.
Pretty quick.
It was pretty fast. And then one by one, different countries are putting in these restrictions. I think, I'll be honest with you, I think there's more politics in that than there is science.
Right. Well, I would agree with that, and it really was a strange thing to do. In the U.S., I think we just asked for the test, which that was okay, but some of the countries were it was getting a little absurd. But it's glad that you came out and said this in terms of WTTC. Now, you talked about sustainability, but what is WTTC doing specifically to promote sustainable tourism for this year?
Well, the very first thing, and it sounds a bit boring, but it's critical, is you have to be able to count. You have to be able to count something to be able to manage it. So the first thing we've done with this great organisation called Oxford Economics is to measure the impact travel and tourism has in terms of our global greenhouse global gas emissions. Right. Because nobody knew before. There'd been a few stabs at it, honourable, very worthy stabs at what the number is. It could be 11, 12%. And now we can categorically say that travel and tourism in all its aspects, everything to do with it, and we call that direct, indirect and induced in the jargon. But our whole aspects, we represent 8.1% in 2019 of global greenhouse gas emissions. So first of all, we can count it. The great thing is, this study, we've done it by 185 countries. So we now can look at each country, and then we can do it by industry, whether it's cruise lines, airports, hotels. Airlines, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what was so interesting, as I only realised the other day, is when we do a Google search or an internet search now, actually, our use of the internet is now consuming more greenhouse gas emissions than travel and tourism.
Really? That's amazing.
Because they fire up these enormous data centers somewhere in, Southern America, US state somewhere. But listen, this isn't about saying someone's bad and someone's good. It's not about shaming. It's just to recognize that all our human activities, from the moment we get up in the morning and even when we're asleep, when we've got the heating on, like we need in London at the minute.
Right, absolutely.
It's pretty cold out here. All our human activities, we consume carbon in one way or another. But what we want to look at is what can we control. So now we can count it. Now we can go to governments now and say, hey, Mr. USA or hey, Mr. UK, this is what your carbon footprint is. So that's really, really important. But as we also know, sustainability isn't just about greenhouse gases. That's probably the most pressing issue for us. But it's also about protecting nature, as we call it, biodiversity. Right. And we're in a really unique position in travel and tourism because we are literally on the front line. We are on the front line in terms of our beach properties that could be facing rising sea levels. We're on the front line in our ski resorts when either they don't get enough snow or they get too much snow, and the horrendous extremes of temperatures that we've seen. Right. So we really feel we're on the front line, and we really feel we can make a difference when it comes to biodiversity and nature. And we see ourselves as guardians. So, we really can protect species like turtles, or we really can help with the replanting of corals. We can really help in protecting mangroves. So we really are there right on the front line. And we went to something called COP15 in Montreal in December at the end of last year, and we published a big report which was like a how to do it guide. How to do it guide. If you are a big hotelier or a big airport, what steps can you take to make sure you're protecting nature? Because if we do protect nature, that also helps in combating climate change as well.
No, absolutely. And some travel and tourism companies have really been leaders in terms of their sustainable efforts. There's hotel companies, cruise lines cruise lines protecting the oceans, all-inclusive resort companies having full programs that really seem to be dwarfing the rest of their business in a way that they're so focused on it. I know a few of them, and they were actually at WTTC in Saudi, so it was great to see them there and understand how much they support this, because it is crucial. And if we're going to keep on, exploring our planet with travel and tourism, we have to have a planet, right?
Absolutely, we do have to have a planet if we're going to keep exploring it, as you say. And so now we're also looking at how can we help, maybe, as you said, some of the very large companies, the Marriotts, the Hyatts, the Radissons, the Hiltons, the Intercontis. They do have big plans in place, and as you say, they are incredible. I was talking to a new member actually yesterday, Best Western. They said that when they have a new hotel, they always try and have a section next to it full of solar panels, so that the energy that they consume, because 1/5 of all the global gas emissions created from travel and tourism comes from the energy we consume in all our properties, and in every way, shape and form. And so, that is what they're doing. And so they're really committed. But listen, it also makes us more efficient. And if we're more efficient, we save money. And in an era where we've got quite a lot of high inflation, it's not a bad idea to also be efficient. So it has financial benefits for us to be environmentally focused as well.
Absolutely. Now, you have your priorities for this year, and of course we're staring at your next global summit coming up in Rwanda, and I don't know if you have dates for it yet, but what are you going to focus on for that summit, and roughly when is that going to be?
Well, Rwanda is incredible. The first time ever the World Travel and Tourism Council is going to be in the continent of Africa, and it is such an amazing continent, and Rwanda itself is stunning. And of course it's renowned for the big project it did on saving, protecting and growing the gorilla species. And that's been a project that they're so famous for, and they've done such a great job on it. But now if you go to their capital, where we're going to be in Kigali, it's a very, very modern city. And very tech developed, and a very safe city, and a very joyous city. So we're really looking forward to going. The dates are going to be the end of October, probably the 30th and the 31st, but give me a little bit, it might go the 1st and the 2nd of...
I want the exact dates now.
But it is very much right. I think it's Halloween, basically. It's going to be right at the end of October. And it's going to be a real privilege to go there.
No, that's fantastic, and I hope I can join you there. We'll see how it goes. I've never been to Rwanda. It's a great country, and I really want to see a lot of that area, and it's great. Do you hope for the same kind of numbers that you got in Saudi, or you think Saudi was sort of unique? I think
in some ways Saudi was unique because you were getting investors from all over the world. But I think we're going to do very, very well, actually. I think there will be a lot of people that will have a lot of interest in Africa. So I'm feeling very upbeat about it.
Now, is there anything else you want to get out to our viewers? We go out to about 110,000 travel advisors in the U.S. and Canada, and then we also got a lot of industry people too. Yeah. They all watch us. Anything else you'd like to say to them about WTTC right now, as we had a great successful summit in Saudi, and we have the Rwanda one coming up?
Well, one thing I was going to mention, many of your viewers will remember the Safe Travel stamp that we did for WTTC, and it was something where they could put it out in their premises to say that when people were traveling during the pandemic, people were following the proper hygiene measures, and it was really, really popular. Along similar lines, we're doing something called Hotel Sustainability Basics, and we talk about the big groups in travel and tourism, big hotel groups, but there are a lot of very, very small chains and a lot of mom and pop
boutique independents.
Boutique independents, and they can represent up to 80%. So we wanted to give them a tool so that they can take that first step on the sustainability ladder. What should they be doing about their energy sources? What do they do about food waste and food recycling? What can they do about looking after the biodiversity around them? And so we've we're just going through the approval process now, but there's effectively going to be a hotel sustainability basic stamp. And the great thing about this, it will mean that a company has reached certain standards, and that will give consumers, who I've already said to you are very, very keen to travel more responsibly, a real sense of reassurance, and it gives them a little bit of marketing edge as well if they can get a WTTC Hotel Sustainability Basics accreditation. And that's what we're working on now.
Well, we'll look forward to that and looking forward to hearing more about that. Now, where can our viewers go to learn more about what WTTC does and all the different programs? We try to inform them, and we basically we cover almost every release that you put out, and I think because it's important for our viewers, many of whom are booking these travelers around the world, and they're kind of the front line of telling the travelers how to travel more sustainably, for instance, and also what places are open. China's now open, Saudi is now open, all these great places, and if you want to go to a great exotic place, go to Rwanda. So there are a lot of places that you go. So where can they find out about that?
Well, it's fantastic. Obviously, at WTTC, we don't try and do the wonderful job of all the tour operators and travel agents who are our members. They're the very, very best sources to go to. And in fact, we've got Google coming to speak to all our members. They're one of our members, and they're a great distributor of products. So, there's a lot of information out there online. But do come to our website as well at WTTC, because there's always some great sustainability information out there, and soon we're going to be building a microsite where people will be able to go in there and get really detailed information.
Fantastic. So I think that's WTTC.org, if I recall, yes. Not .com. And please go take a look, and you can read Insider Travel Report and go back and look at all the coverage we've done, both of the Saudi Global Summit and what we've done over the past year. Julia, it's great to see you here in your homeland, here in London. A little cold, as you said, a little colder than Saudi, but it's wonderful, and it's the first time I've been in your offices here. But congratulations on all the work you do, and keep it up, because I think this is crucial for all of us in travel and tourism.
Well, James, my hats off to you for everything you're doing for our sector. You do a great job.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm James Shillinglaw here in a little cold London, but we're having a great conversation here, and this is Insider Travel Report.